One thing that we picked up when we were chatting with Mayor Suarez before is this point that I think a lot of people don't understand. When you're in a position as like a mayor of a city or town, you have to balance your budget. It's very different than the federal government. And I see this consistent tone where mayors are like, yeah, the federal government, the central banks of the United States, like the Federal Reserve, have gotten way out of control when it comes to monetary policy and fiscal spending. And mayors working on a localized level, they not only understand their community much deeper, so they obviously want to make much more dramatic investment and impact on people's lives than someone who's working at the federal level. But on top of that as well, you have that mindset of fiscal responsibility. And to do that, you've got to constantly stay innovative, working on the localized level. So I really can appreciate and understand that case, that position you were in, not only with just crypto, but as you mentioned, technological innovation. And I want to kind of dive in a little bit to that because, for Jackson, you have a big focus of doing pretty much anything you can to drive Bitcoin and crypto into the space. So I know one of them, which is kind of relevant to us, is getting paid in crypto in the local area. But I wanted to hear as well maybe like the full scope of what you guys are looking to do to bring Bitcoin and crypto to the space.
Yeah, so it started out for me thinking, what can we do? Because you're right. I mean, budgeting for us is paramount. We've been fortunate in the last couple of years. We've been very conservative in how we budgeted. Since I took office in July of 2019, there really hasn't been a normal, like call it a budget year, because we've had COVID and everything that goes along with it. And so, but we've been fortunate. We've planned very well. We've had some surpluses, and so to put that money back in. But we're still at the point, like many other local governments, we're having to ask the or question. Are we going to pave streets? Are we going to do sidewalks? Or are we going to invest in parks? How are we going to prioritize our spending? And so my first thought was, let's get to that 15, 20 years down the road. And we have some space up here in City Hall that hasn't been used since the City Hall was built. And I thought, man, I'll spend a little money here and get some miners, put it down there, turn it on in the off-peak hours, let it run, balance our energy usage out with our energy authority. And then just not even worry about it. Just let it mine, and then we get to a point 15, 20 years down the road, we can go, let's get to the conversation. Let's do the streets and the sidewalks and the parks and the capital investments. And so reached out to the state comptroller's office, said, hey, this is what I want to do. Can I do it? And they politely said, no, you can't. There's certain things that you can invest in, you can't hold on your balance sheet. And crypto and Bitcoin is not one of them. So, okay. And so how do we continue the conversation and get people bought in and get people understanding what this process is, and still continue to move forward with the limits that we have. And so that is, since we can't pay employees, we talk about accepting property taxes through a third-party system. But the reality of it now, I mean, we want to educate people to hold right now, not to spend it because of the short-term volatility, and massive Jobson hasn't gotten there yet. And so the reality of people paying in Bitcoin, not really there. And so that would be just doing something for the sake of doing it to get a headline. That's really not what I'm about. I want to make that sustainable change. And so the other option was, how do we give our employees a chance in a controlled environment? Because, I mean, when I started researching, looking into it, having conversations, I mean, depending on where you got your information, it was just so all over the spectrum of from, this is the worst thing ever, to, this needs to happen right now, and then all in between. And so how do we provide education, a controlled environment, so we're not just saying, hey, employees, go do this. And so we looked at our IRA deferred compensation plan, which is, we pay our employees through a financial advisor and education. They can say, we're going to take X number out of our paycheck every 2 weeks, put in a deferred compensation plan. And so let's mirror that with a crypto wallet. And then we can get to a point where we're providing the education, helping them open a wallet if they don't have one. And then, talking about the long-term investment, getting away. We don't want them to try to day trade. These aren't penny stocks you're trying to get rich on quickly. Making sound investment, sound fiscal responsible monetary investments for the future. And so we went down that path, opened up a request for proposals, and then we received those proposals a few weeks ago. Had a conversation with the treasurer's office at the state level, comptroller's office, and getting them involved because right now, as far as Tennessee goes, we're the first city doing this, first government doing it. So we have to do it right, and we have to do it to where it's beyond reproach. And so we want to make sure that we're bringing stakeholders to the table across the state to make sure that we're doing that correctly, and that we're creating that blueprint for other cities and local governments across the state.
One thing, Scott, that I think you hit on really well is that constantly, I see one of either two things in crypto, which is that we have to get it out there for more people to spend, to go like buy things. And then the other narrative that I constantly see champion as I do YouTube in the crypto space and just cover the markets, people are always telling me the latest, greatest project that does X, Y, and Z, some kind of technical overfeat beyond what Bitcoin and some of the core cryptocurrencies are going to be doing. And I think I come back to that point exactly that you mentioned earlier quite eloquently, which is that crypto assets right now, all the while people tend to think that they're attractive because of their short-term volatility. You might be able to trade something and make quick returns. In reality, what makes crypto so great is its finalized supply, having finality or limitations when the supply, programmed to the protocol, and serving as an inflation. And I think that's the clear use case now.